Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab on the Fantasy Football Universe. I am Aaron St. Dennis. Follow me everywhere at FF Mad Scientist. Joined today by Ryan Prosick at Ryan Pros _FF. Ryan, how's it going?
It's going amazing. I get to talk Eagles today. I'm very excited about it because, when you're a fantasy analyst, you don't get to talk about your favorite team all the time. So
I found being a fantasy analyst has made me not have a favorite team. I grew up a Lions fan. I bailed in 1999-ish when Barry retired. Stopped watching Lions for the longest time. Became a Saints fan through fantasy football. Got all their players loaded up on Saints. And then when Drew Brees retired, I found I'm not very interested in the Saints or the Lions, and I really just care about my fantasy team. So this is why I don't play fantasy hockey or fantasy baseball, because I have a diehard team in both sports, and I found myself rooting for my own fantasy team over my own favorite team, and I'm just like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. But we will get into some Eagles, but before we do that, you want to take a second to plug yourself. Tell us where we can find you and everything you do.
Yeah, currently I'm writing for the league winners. Of course, I'm writing Eagles content. So there you go, a little connection there. So if you want to learn more about the Eagles, their upcoming season, you can follow me there. I do some best ball work as well because I'm a best ball addict. I'm sure you saw my episode with Jeremy. I love it. It's so much fun. I'm a degenerate. Best ball drafts are a great way to pass the time, and you can earn a little money along the way. So
I always get left out on those. I've had this conversation with Fantasy Joker Jack. We're both in Canada, and most of those best ball drafts are on Underdog. I go to sign up, and it says, sorry, not available in your regions, though.
Yep.
I have zero. Well, not zero. I have very few best ball because the only best ball I can draft are actual best ball leagues, like on Sleeper. Can't do any of the Underdog ones, so I miss out on all the the maniacs having fun drafting 90 teams in February. So
it's even quicker now because they just introduced 10-second clocks. So
that's disgusting.
I got done my draft in 22 minutes, 18 rounds.
At 10-second clock, I'd have to set my rankings in advance and just let the whole thing auto draft.
The lobby wasn't even full. 22 minutes front to back. It was ridiculous.
Oh my Lord. Jeez. All right, well, let's get into the Eagles here. We'll start with quarterback. We got Jalen Hurts, QB2 last year, going as QB2 in ADP, followed by the newly acquired Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee, and Will Greer. What are your thoughts here? I assume this obviously this is.
I assume we don't have to spend as long on this position because Jalen Hurts is a stud. What more is there to say? The thing we could talk about though is, do we think there's going to be the tush push without Jason Kelce? Because that certainly was a lot of his value last year. I still think he's going in the right spot because he still has rushing ability. And, of course, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley in the passing game. He's going to get there. It's, is he 2? Is he 1? Maybe is he 3 or 4? And he doesn't hit that value that you really need. But you have to pencil him as a top 5 option.
Yeah.
It's pretty unrealistic that he doesn't hit that unless he gets hurt, of course, but we don't project for injuries. So
I'm a little worried. Obviously, I think he's top 5 still, but I think you're right there. I think that's why they brought in Barkley. I think with Kelce gone, they're expecting, whether they expect the tush push to be less effective or they just want to start protecting Hurts more as he gets, he's still not old, but as he gets older, I think you want him to stop taking such a pounding. Sooner or later, one of these tush pushes is going to get him hurt. But
I've had this idea. Saquon's known for squatting a ton too. Could they have him do the tush push?
That might be a much safer idea.
I've had that thought once they signed him. Like, hey, wait a minute, he's a freak in the weight room too. Maybe it could work if you want to protect this high value asset in Jalen Hurts. You're paying him a ton of money and you can't risk him getting hurt. I know Saquon, it would be the exact same thing, but still, it's just a little bit safer option for the team.
Well, and the ton of money you're paying Saquon is not the same ton of money you're paying Hurts. That's a different level there.
It's a different level, and like I said, Saquon's if he gets that work, he's gonna destroy ADP if he gets a tush push.
Yeah, I don't know why with your franchise quarterback, why you'd want him constantly running in to a huge pile of humanity. All it takes is one guy to come down on him and break an ankle or something, and you're screwed. I would be running if you're going to keep with the tush push. I'd be throwing Barkley in there all day long instead. Because what's the deal? He on? What's he on? A couple-year deal?
I believe it's 3.
3? Yeah, it's 2 or
3 with a
3.
couple of void years.
Yeah, well, so it's a handful of years at far less than you're paying Jalen Hurts, or will be at for his career. So we'll transition that into the running backs. Newly acquired Saquon finished RB17 last year, going as RB4 this year. Kenny Gainwell, who I always thought was electric and just never really seems to get enough workload. Will Shipley, the rookie out of Clemson. Kendall Milton, the rookie out of Georgia. TDP from LSU, and Lou Nichols III from Central Michigan. What are your thoughts here on the running back room?
Well, obviously, just like most of the Eagles, Saquon is an absolute stud, but I want to focus more on the backups because, if Saquon's healthy, it's the best offensive line he's ever had. The Giants have been an absolute disaster in that category for how long. It was funny on the what's Travis Kelce's podcast again? New Heights? It's New Heights, right?
I think so.
Saquon on there, and Jason Kelce's like, "You're gonna be a beast behind that O-line," and Saquon's like, "You come back, You're not done yet,
Makes sense.
So, anyway, Saquon is an absolute stud. I'm happy to have him. The Pennsylvania thing, the Penn State to Philadelphia kind of deal. It's awesome to have him in state again. But as for the backups, I think Will Shipley is going to be the guy. The OTA and training camp reports have been absolutely astounding for him. He's been catching passes. I think he ran a couple from the slot. I know that's going to be a highly contested topic for the Eagles this season. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but I think Will Shipley is going to be the backup sooner than later. I know Kenneth Gainwell has provided flashes in the past few years, but I think they took Will Shipley as a long-term backup to Saquon, and I just see that playing out reasonably. And, like we said, we never project for injuries, but if Will Shipley gets carries in that offense, even as the backup, he might crush value at ADP of 70.
Yeah, I like Shipley. Even throughout the rookie process, I thought he was being way undervalued. He has some sleeper appeal. He wasn't my number one best pass catcher out of the rookie class. I think I had Dylan Lobby. There was one or two ahead of him, but he was definitely one of the better pass catchers. So I think you're right. Like, I liked Gainwell in the past, but I definitely think Shipley's going to be the backup. And with Barkley's age and, past injury history, add in if he's going to be the one doing the tush push, I think Shipley is definitely someone I'm going to be having in, dynasties and in deeper formats like Scott Fishbowl, Just have him late and hope he hits.
Every round 18 or 20 in Best Ball, I typically grab Will Shipley. He's one of my guys that's just sitting there. Like, the upside is crazy. Even if he's the backup, he could, get some good work there.
Absolutely. Now to the wide receiver room. We have A.J. Brown, wide receiver 5 last year, 6 this year. Devonta Smith, wide receiver 17 last year, going as 23 this year. Then we have Johnny Wilson, who's more of a tight end. Anaya Smith, who was dealing with a foot injury. Not sure if it'll be healed in time yet. Paris Campbell, who always seemed to be hurt but had potential. John Ross, who I thought was retired. And Britton Covey. What are your thoughts here on the receivers?
Well, it's the Eagles, so we're A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith absolutely locked in as the top 2 targets. They're going to get most of the passing work as they have been and, as they should. But that wide receiver 3 race is the one that's just wide open. Like, in camp, Paris Campbell had the early lead. John Ross came in and impressed with his speed. Johnny Wilson has that unique frame. Anaya Smith profiles the best as a slot receiver outside of Paris Campbell. Britton Covey's a special teams guy, so he's not going to have any impact there. I believe his wide receiver rank might have been on a punt return touchdown. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what he finished 196 for. So there's that. It's just, who's going to win this wide receiver 3 job? I mean, I've always been a big Paris Campbell believer. I've been a big John Ross believer in the past. Anaya Smith, his tape was all right in my opinion. Johnny Wilson didn't really impress me when I watched the tape, but when you're picking someone that late, go for the height speed outlier kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I think Paris Campbell's the guy, and I see that's why his ADP is the best, is the highest. I just think he profiles well for that role, but it's really iffy here because if they want to play Devonta in the slot a little bit, they could do that, and they could go with someone like Johnny Wilson on the outside or John Ross with the speed. I think it's going to be a rotation, if I'm being honest. I think they're going to keep three of these guys, maybe four, probably three outside of the top two, and they're just going to rotate them in and out until they see what works. And, that's never fun for fantasy, but if you get it right and a guy sticks, it's going to be huge value on the ADP. So
I think that's the answer there. There isn't going to be one wide receiver 3. It's just going to be a bunch of guys subbing in. I too like Paris Campbell, but I don't really want to invest in any of these guys. We'll conclude with the tight ends here. We've got Dallas Goedert, tight end 15 last year, 13 this year. Albert O, CJ Uzama, and Grant Calcaterra. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, Dallas Goedert is the guy. It's one of those episodes where the Eagles have all these established guys. There's not really anything out of the ordinary here. Albert O could be interesting if they decide to run a lot of 12. I don't think they're gonna. The league's been going away from that, and the Eagles have been really going away from that, except when they had Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, which was a different story when you had two top talents at tight end. But I think you could pencil Dallas Goedert in to finish just Dallas Goedert screams to me tight end 8, tight end 9 if he gets there. Like, you know what I mean? He's not going to be one of those top 5 guys with his upside just because it's so crowded. Of course, the offense is great, which helps him get to the ADP ranking of 13, but I just don't see him doing all that much better than that. As for the other guys, sure, they've had flash in the past. Albert O was everyone's favorite dynasty darling. What was that, 3 years ago? 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
He was everybody's favorite. CJ Uzama has quietly had some good seasons in the past, and Grant Calcaterra is, I don't want to say just there, but it feels like that's what he has been. He's just not really, he hasn't shown much flashes in the past couple of years with the Eagles, but Dallas Goedert's locked in as the one. And if he goes down, maybe Albert O could have a nice little year, but I think Uzama would come in at that point. And like I said, we don't project for injuries, and I hope none of these guys get injured because it's just terrible. But Dallas Goedert is the guy, and low tight end 1 upside is probably the max ceiling for him.
Dallas Goedert over the last few years has been my favorite. Did you know? Did you know Dallas Goedert's highest full season long finish in any of his years in 6 years is tight end 10. He's never finished higher than tight end 10 every year. Remember when he was going tight end 5, 6, 7 every year? I could not understand it. I'm saying like he's 21, 10, 21, 10, 11, 15. He's a low end tight end 1. And every year
he needs the touchdowns to get there.
When I think it was because, he was tight end 10, but that was with Zach Ertz on the roster. So we'll just, let's assume he's a tight end, a high end 1, but when Ertz left, he never really got there. He kind of stayed as part of it's he never plays the full damn season and misses 5 games every year. But for me, I need those 5 games, so that season long matters to me. Season long doesn't matter to me over 1 year. When you say that, well, he's got the upside, blah, blah, blah. Every once in after a while, I hate he's got the upside argument. He's 29. He's been in the league for 6 years. There is no more upside. The upside is what he is. At some point, like his injuries, we'll give him the points per game. Well, he's had 6 years in a row of not playing every game. So at some point, we just have to accept that that's what he is. Dallas Goedert is a low-end tight end 1 who's going to give decent numbers, but he's also going to miss some time and he's going to need touchdowns. So I never seem to get any shares of Dallas Goedert, and that is why.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
One last thought on Goedert, especially in like best ball. He feels like, since I've been doing the drafts early, so it'll carry over to redraft, he feels like the end of like the safe guys. Like I'm like, okay, he's gonna finish, decent. He's gonna provide me points most weeks, and then it's the next guys like the Dalton Schultz who are in the ultra crowded rooms, and then it just feels like a teardrop after Dallas Goedert. So that's at least where I stand at this point.
Yeah, you're right. But if you look at it too, it's like that end of that teardrop seems to also be right around tight end 10 to 12 on the board. So it's
Mhm.
the top 10 or so are safe, and that's exactly where Goddard is. I got him above, I think, like Cole Kmet, like you said, Dalton Schultz. I don't think they're much safer. So yeah, he's tight end 13 in ADP. I think he finishes a little higher, but
Maybe like I said, the ceiling's 9. Ceiling's
yeah,
8, 9.
yeah. Well, I think that's what his ranking here is. Best is 8, so I think
I can
that's
see
even
it.
being a little generous. But moment of truth: one target and one avoid on this roster at their ADP, give or take a bit.
See, this is the hard one because, like we were talking about before, everyone on the Eagles has a massive ADP. So I think for my target, I think I'm gonna have to. Obviously, we talked about Will Shipley, but I'm gonna have to go with Saquon Barkley. There is the chance, it might be a slim one, that he gets the tush push and absolutely just breaks fantasy altogether with all those touchdowns. I think he's still gonna get there just based on volume, based on O-line quality. Obviously, the injuries have been not so fun the past couple of years for him, especially that freak one against the Cowboys where the guy rolled up on his ankle and he just missed a lot of time. It wasn't the same, but I think here in the Eagles organization, I think he is going to put up massive numbers, and I'm excited to see it happen. I know 4 is already a lofty ADP, but I'm in. It's falling around the mid second round right now, early
Yeah.
to mid second for ADP 4 of a running back. So I'm okay with that. I'm going to target him everywhere. I've been drafting a lot of underdog like we've been talking about, and I hope to get him on my redraft teams this season.
And who are you avoiding?
You know, this is the ultra tough one because
For me, the answer is right here, AJ Brown. I like some of the other receivers in his range, and I don't. He just every time. Maybe this is personal bias. Every time I've needed AJ Brown early in his career, playoffs, championships, to get into the playoffs, he's either hurt or puts up 2 points. So I think I just have personal axe to grind here with AJ Brown, but he's never the guy I'm taking out wide receiver 6.
See, I am. He wasn't at the top of my board for my answer because if the Eagles just didn't fall off last year, I think we'd be looking at AJ Brown in a whole different light. Like he was on pace to just put up like not CeeDee Lamb numbers because CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill were ridiculous, but like he was right behind them. So and they just fell apart. So I think he still has upside at that spot. And then I've been looking into the coaching. My answer is between Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, just because if Jalen Hurts doesn't get the tush push, he might not get there. But Devontae Smith, I think it might have to be him, even though I read something about Kellen Moore in motion. If they put Devontae Smith in motion in Kellen Moore's offense, he's going to absolutely eat. So there's obviously risk at fading any of these guys because these guys are all going in the top 2 rounds, basically, of fantasy drafts. So
But it's
a tough question, but I'm going to go Devontae Smith just because I think AJ Brown is that much of an alpha. But I love Devontae Smith,
this
so
is the
it's
best
no
part about
hate. No hate.
No, but this is the best part about fantasy football. I want Devontae and I'm avoiding AJ. You want AJ and you're avoiding Devontae. I love fantasy football.
I feel like it's 5 and 17, especially considering the fall off. Like it's not bad. Like they could have finished higher if the Eagles just didn't collapse. So,
all right, now the fun part. I'll tell you the game. You give me win or loss. Week 1 against the Packers.
See, this is the one that I'm pondering the most about because the neutral site in Brazil on the Friday. That's a tough one. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna, you know how mad our fan base is gonna be if we lose week 1.
no, they seem completely rational.
I'll go win there, and I'll go
week 2 home against the Falcons.
Primetime game. We're not losing. That's a win.
Yeah. Week 3 at New Orleans. That's probably a win.
I'll take that one as a win as well.
Week 4, I think, is probably. Oh, so you get all the NFC South. Week 4 at Tampa.
I think that's a sneaky loss.
Oh, okay. Sneaky would be the
sneaky
word.
loss. I think Tampa gets us. I really like what Baker Mayfield did last year, and it's just one of those things where you're not going to go 17-0.
Well, you have them going into the bye at 3-1. Then you are home to Cleveland.
That's a win. I'm going to start rattling off wins here. because
All
I
right.
think we're beating the Giants. I think Saquon's going to absolutely feast against them.
Okay. So
He's got
week
a
7 at the
vendetta.
Giants is a win for you. Week 8 at Cincy.
I think that's a loss.
That's a loss, 4-3. Week 9, home to the Jags.
That's a win.
Win. Week 10 at Dallas.
At Dallas is a loss. I'm giving them the win in week 17. We usually split with those guys.
Fine. Understandable. Week 11, home to the Commanders.
That's a win.
Yes, it is. Week 12 at the Rams.
Back and forth, but I'll give the Eagles the benefit of the doubt with the win there. Just the Rams got a little worse without Aaron Donald.
Week 13 is what might be the toughest game on the board, on the schedule. Week 13 at Baltimore.
See, I want to give them the win here, but then I think I'm running the table with the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's possible.
I think it's very possible with the easy end of the season schedule there. So I'm going to give. I think they'll beat the Ravens, honestly.
All right, we'll give them the W. Then you go week 14, home to the Panthers.
That's a win.
Week 15, home to the Steelers.
That's also a win.
All right, week 16 at Washington.
Actually, I think we lose this one.
It's
one of those games where I just feel like the team's gonna be confident, riding a win streak, and they're just gonna not overlook a Washington team, and then obviously Jane Daniels will have the chance to improve by then. So I think that one's a sneaky loss as well.
And then you said week 17, home to the Cowboys is a win.
Yep.
All right. Week 18, home to the Giants.
That's a win.
So you have them at 12-5. Though every team in the NFL is 12-5 this year. So awesome.
I felt like I was actually kind of courteous there with some of the losses, if I'm being honest.
I think the only one I disagree with, I think the Ravens might be the best team in football.
Yeah.
I think the Ravens is a tough one. But you gave a couple of losses that I probably would have taken the win in the second game against Washington. Maybe, and definitely I think against Cincy. Yeah, so you probably undersold them, because I think if I had done it again, I would have had them lose to the Ravens for sure.
Yeah.
The Browns for sure. And then maybe the Packers or Cowboys. So I probably have them more like 13-3. So you're not selling them.
I guess I'm tempering expectations for this year after the drastic collapse that I saw last year. New coaches, new scheme.
Yeah.
Maybe I was too generous at the front half and a little less in the back half, because it's going to take some time adapting that new offense and actual game situations. So maybe that's where we differ a little bit.
Well, Ryan, thank you for coming on and talking Eagles with me. You want to take one more shot here and plug yourself? Tell us where we can find all your work.
Yep, you could find me at the League Winners. I'm writing best ball content, a little bit of fantasy content, and of course, Eagles content, because it's a big season. I'm glad you didn't have me talk defense, because we could have been here for about an hour and a half talking about the corner room, because they have like 15 corners on the roster right now, and you know how bad they were last year. So
I have my own separate IDP show, and I've been saying all offseason that I think the Lions and the Eagles each drafted 2 of the best 4 rookie corners on the board. And I don't know how the NFL let that happen. But again, you're right. Let's not get into that. It'll be another hour long. So thank you to Ryan for joining me and talking Eagles. If you want to see the Eagles team page, head over to fantasyfootballuniverse.com. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Take care.